Hello, Professor C here, and we're going to work with Chapter 5 command called grep, G-R-E-P, which stands for Graphical Regular Expression Parser or Graphical Expression Regular Expression Print. It's a very powerful command that I use quite a bit in the industry. Before we go any further with this learning module, I want to make sure you have a file with the values of names called names5.txt. It has these values. I changed it in another learning module to be Liza Beth. You can have Liza or Liza Beth, but you have these values. And I also copy that file, names5.txt, to another file called names5copy.txt. And I create a directory called BLC and another directory called files. And I'm in a directory called Chapter 5. So how many levels down am I in the file system? / is 1, Home's 2, B Candido is 3, Chapter 5 is 4. Let's do an ls and see what we have. And you can see I have a couple files here, some from previous learning modules I've done. And I'm going to do this real quick. Perfect. Oh, what did I mess up? Oh, I messed up. Sorry about that, people. It's getting near lunchtime and I'm hungry. And I'm going to copy some of all the text files to a subdirectory called BLC. Then I'm going to copy just the ones that have names.5.txt to a directory called files. Perfect. So we're going to use the grep in its most simplest terms. We're going to say grep, and grep is used to search inside files, not file names. For example, if I do an ls command and I do n*.txt, it only looks for file names that begin with an N. Notice it does not go into the children directory looking for things. Grep will look inside of a file for a value. So that is a big difference between the two. So I'm going to do a grep, and I'm going to look for Brian, and I'm going to look for it in the file called names5.txt. And it found Brian twice. Okay. It didn't find the lowercase spelling because I did not tell it to ignore case. So I'm going to do a -I. And I think it's a good habit to put quotes around what you're looking for. And there it found the 3 occurrences. And then I can tell it to search all text files that begin with names. And it will go through and says it's found in this file, it's found in this file, and it's also found in this file. So you can see it gives you a report of how many times, not how many times, it shows you each occurrence of that file's value. I can then also ask for a count. And then I could say in all text files. Or actually, let me go back and leave it as this. And it says, see, it takes this data and says in names5 copy, it found it 3 times. In names5.txt, it found it 3, and it found it 3. I can also use it with wildcards. And it will look at every text file and give me a report of how many occurrences it's found in each of the files. In etc.txt, it's found 0. In hist.txt, in my file, it's 6 times. 3 times in this one, 3 times in this one, 3 times in this one. You can also use grep through the pipe and say, show me the files where it is not present. So it should do this and hands this off to the grep, a second grep, and says, just give me the ones that have a :0. It acts like a filter, and it filtered or whittled this down to just that. And then I can find the ones where the value is not. The -v stands for inverse. It means not :0. It shows me all the ones that have values in it, have the value Brian in it. I'm going to give you a moment here to think about this. Okay, welcome back. So now I'm going to clear the screen. And if you remember, the grep was only looking at files in this particular directory. I could be very direct and tell it to only look in certain specific file. I could also wildcard it. I could get rid of the C. I could wildcard it But one of them, and I could also get a summary, just to make sure we go over this. One of the most powerful things about the grep command is we can tell it to go into the children directories with the R switch, which stands for recursive. So I'm going to do a grep-i-ir, and I'm going to look for the value of Brian. Starting where I am. And notice it goes through and it looks in all files and it tells me where it's found. And it fully qualifies it. Here is the fully qualified path. So under the directory I'm in something called files, in a file called names5.txt. Notice files is a child directory of me. Right here, it goes into the directory I'm in and finds it in the his.txt. And down here, it goes into the BLC directory. Actually, it goes in the BLC directory here, into this file and finds it. So I can modify this and just say, give me a count. Do an ICR, ignore case, give me a count, be recursive, look for the value of Brian, starting where I am. And it shows you the occurrences of where it's found. This is a very, very powerful feature of the grep that lets you go into children directories. You tell it where to start with the dot. Dot being the directory I'm in now. If I want to find all the values of Brian in the files, but I only want the ones where there is some values, so I say grep or search inside a file, ignoring case, give me a count, recursive, looking for Brian, starting in the directory I'm in now, which is /home B Candido Chapter 5, and then grep, I only want the ones where there is, oh, sorry, I hit enter too quick. There is a value. You do the grep-v on the pipe to take the list, invert the search, and give me the ones that are not equal to :0. And these are all the files that do have Brian found inside of it. Let's ramp this up and change it around a little bit. I'm going to challenge you to write a grep to search the whole system for the value of Brian in all files. So let's give it a try. All right, so now we're going to search the whole file system, ignoring case, recursively, give me a count of the value of Brian, starting at the top of the file system, and hit enter. And you can see I'm getting a bunch of feedback. I may even be getting some permission errors that I don't know about. And you can see a lot of data has come out. So I'm going to interrupt this with a Control-C, and we're going to change it. Oh, right here, perfect. Here's permission denied. So we're going to do a clear, and we're going to modify this so when it searches, if it runs into any errors, that we suppress them. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say 2 greater than . So if you run into any errors, send it there. If you don't get any errors, send it over to another grep, do an invert search, and I want to find it where it is not equal to 0. So start at the top of the file system, searching for Brian, ignoring case recursively, and give me a count. If I get permission errors, put it into this file called error text. If I get no permission errors, then pipe it over to the grep and filter out the ones that are not 0. So let's see if it works. And there it is. It seems to be working. And you can also see it's tying up our terminal, my terminal. And you're going to learn in Chapter 8 how to have this run in the background so it does not eat up resources. Another thing I can do, this looks crazy, but I can do this. It starts from left to right. Grep, ignoring case, recursive, give me a count, looking for Brian, starting at the top of the file system. Any permission errors go here. If it finds it, or no permission errors, send it over here. Filter out anything where the :0 is not :0, which means it's found, and then put into a file called found. And it's going to run in the background or at my terminal until it finds it. So I will wait for this to finish, and I will show you the results of it. So if you remember, we issue this command, And it did finish. And let's go to see what we found in the found.txt. And this is everywhere it found Brian where the number of occurrences is not 0. Pretty cool. All right, let's clear that out. And I want to show you one more thing, how we can do an OR when we're searching. So we can say grep dash I looking for Brian / pipe moose names.txt. Oh, it's names 5. And there it is. It found it. Pretty cool. So you can do ORs that way. You can also use the grep on non-files. For example, if I wanted to find out all the names of my children directories, and remember children directories begin with a D. So look what I can do. I can do an ls-l, pipe it through the grep, and I can say, look for anything that starts with, see the caret, D. Caret means starts with D. And this should show me of my directory, anything that is, all the contents of my directory that are children directories. And there it is. See, it found BLC and files. This is very powerful. I'm going to go back to my home directory, and I can use it to find all my children directories. And there they are. So the grep has many features, which I have in this video, and here's the OR, and here's how to check with the start, how something starts with. For example, show me the contents of my ls to an ls-l of my directory, and show me all the ones that begin with a D, which would be directory, and there they are. I hope you like the grep, and I hope you use it a lot.